But what is the economy? It is generally discussed as if it were some force of nature, a separate entity with an identity all its own. However, this is an erroneous conception, at least within the framework of capitalism. Without socialism, the economy is nothing more than the sum of financial transactions between individuals. The economy, when we participate in it by buying, selling, working, or receiving unearned benefits, is you, me, and the man next door. It is all of us, and ideally, its overall function should be to serve our interests as fairly and effectively as possible. But capitalism does not go this far. It stops at the idea that the economy consists of many diverse transactions, adding no overall economic morality except to assert that everyone's self-interested transactions somehow serve the best interest of everyone else. Clearly, there is a fundamental deception at work here. In our capitalist societies, the economy is described as if it were something created to serve the common interest, but this is not the case. In reality, capitalist economies are never created at all, except by accident. It is against the basic principles of capitalism to plan an economy. It must simply be allowed to take its natural course. Leaving aside for the moment the fact that the United States and other major capitalist nations long ago realized the absurdity and unworkability of this and grudgingly instituted a number of economic regulations, we should focus on the fact that the essence of capitalist theory remains widely embraced, and that it explicitly encourages the formation of master-slave relationships. Thomas Hobbes, a 17th-century English philosopher, famously described the natural condition of man in the absence of civilization as nasty and brutish, among other unfortunate qualities. Hobbes held that our default state is a war of every man against every other man. Pioneers of capitalism, such as Adam Smith and John Locke, must have thought little of Hobbes' conclusion when they formulated a system in which the common good is left to be worked out entirely by nature's invisible hand, which they supposed would ensure that everyone else's interests would be served if we all served our own interests first. It is hard to understand how these philosophers could have looked at the eternal struggle and competition evidenced in nature, an extension of Hobbes' war of all against all, and conclude that man would behave any differently. Perhaps it helped that these capitalist pioneers believed that we were beings created in the divine image of God, but without this belief, modern thinkers should be skeptical of an economic theory which leaves the establishment of the common good to the same natural motivations which govern a pack of wild hyenas fighting over a scrap of food. If some hyenas are routinely outcompeted by their fellows, no invisible hand ensures their survival. Nature is indifferent, and men not created in God's image have natural motivations. Under naturalism, whatever sparse moral basis capitalism might claim simply falls apart. Some would insist that capitalism has never claimed to be moral, outside the radical theories of Ayn Rand and certain conservative political movements, but this assertion does not survive even a superficial analysis. The concept of the invisible hand is clearly an ethically motivated one. We are to rest assured that capitalism is a good system because it not only provides economic freedom but also ensures the common welfare. A rising tide lifts all boats, we are told, but in reality, this is only true as long as we make an unspoken pact to ignore the sinking ships. Nature is creative but unforgiving. In an economic system based on leaving the common good to be established by natural principles, it should be clear that only the strong are equipped to experience the good. How then, does capitalism address the problem of the common good with a straight face? I would submit that it does so by tautologically redefining the commonality to include only those well equipped to do well. Those who are physically, mentally, or temperamentally ill-suited to economic activity are simply ostracized, considered irrelevant, or otherwise removed from society's consideration. The common good no longer applies to them, so there is no problem. Those who can do well are doing well, and everything is all right. But even for those who are making it under capitalism, a deeper problem remains. In the animal kingdom, the role of individuals is governed by dominance hierarchies, and in capitalism, which uses the natural order as its economic theory, the situation is no different. Consider for a moment a typical day in the life of a free citizen in the capitalist world. Early in the morning, he is awakened against his will by the blaring of an alarm clock. In the space of an hour or less, he must shower, dress, and cram down some kind of breakfast. Next, he begins his lengthy daily commute, which he despises. He arrives at the workplace and is reprimanded by an authority figure for being 5 minutes late or some other petty concern. He spends the next 8 hours doing exactly what he is told the way he is told to do it, all the while being expected to maintain a compliant team player attitude out of gratitude to the employer for giving him the job and out of fear of losing it. When quitting time arrives, he repeats the morning commute in reverse and arrives home, where he has perhaps a few hours under his own control before he must go to bed and get ready to do it all again the next day. Where is the freedom in this? The simple fact is that we are economically compelled to sell most of our waking life to the highest bidder, surrendering our individual autonomy to our employers or our businesses, should we happen to be self-employed. What, then, is the difference between this economic slavery and traditional chattel slavery? I would submit that it lies in the control mechanisms used. A universal method of manipulating human behavior involves the metaphor known as the carrot and the stick. The carrot, of course, is a perceived reward, while the stick is a perceived punishment. If the stick is big enough, as in chattel slavery, no carrot is required. Chattel slaves can be abused or killed at will, making fear of punishment sufficient to ensure compliance. But the civilized world no longer tolerates chattel slavery, so in addition to the stick, economic slavery must rely on some kind of carrot. Today, the carrot is consumerism,